are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. You find everything, find it okay here? Find how to get here?
Yes, the instructions were really easy to follow.
Perfect. So I'm Kayla. I'll be doing this counseling session with you. I know we've met before, but just to reiterate, everything we say today, you don't have to answer any questions if you don't feel comfortable doing so, or if you'd like to stop for any reason, you can, or take a break. Everything's fine. Also, for the sake of this video, this is for a class, and I will have my teacher as well as other students look at this video. So I do have a consent form for you to sign before we get started. Do you have any questions about what it says, or we can go over it real quick and then we'll go from there?
Without looking at it, I don't think I have any questions.
Perfect. All right, well, we'll go ahead and take a look at it.
Okay. Oh, this pen writes really nicely.
Yes.
What's today's date?
Well, it's 17th.
Okay. Oh, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, happy St. Patrick's. I don't see any green on you.
Right here.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Cool. I'm just going to sign this real quick. All right. So, I know we met before, and we were going over, you were finishing up your last semester of college, and you're looking for career and job opportunities, and you had started applying. How is that going? How did you...
Yeah, so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was feeling really confident about it because I had an interview on campus for a job that I'd applied for, and then I'd been told about some opportunities, and I applied to 2 or 3 in social services. Just to recap, I'm a social work major, getting my master's degree. And I'm debating whether I'm interested in higher education or in more of the social services youth education area. But I'm starting to get really nervous because I heard in a meeting today for my assistantship that the university is thinking about starting to put hiring freezes in because of any potential economic downturns that could happen as a response of the pandemic. So it's something that I hadn't really thought about being worried about before, and now I'm very worried that because I don't already have a job offer, places will stop hiring and they'll start just doing what they can with the people that they have.
Yes. Yeah, that can be stressful.
Yes.
So, and have you applied for any jobs within, and this is within the university you're worried about, or just in general?
In general.
In general, they're putting a freeze on jobs.
Yes.
For...
They haven't done it yet, and I haven't heard back from the on-campus job that I interviewed for. I don't really know when I'm supposed to hear back from them. They were really unclear about the timeline.
Okay.
I knew several other people that also interviewed, and they haven't heard anything either, which makes me feel a little bit better. But basically, the university said, if you're hiring anybody, do it right now, because we're about to put a freeze in, or there's potential for one. And I'm just worried that that will be universal and not just at the university. But total, I've probably applied for like 5 or 6 jobs. Yeah.
5 or 6. Have you heard back from any of them, or?
So 4 of those were at the university. I heard back from 2. And one of them is the one that I had the on-campus interview for. The other one, where I was a student, my job experience counted as half-time, so I'm not qualified. And then the 2 that I applied for that are social services, I applied for those last week and I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. So you're applying for jobs, and right now there's a fear and there's a stress with the COVID-19 going around that's causing some delays and maybe jobs offering you a position or having availability, right? Okay. Well, are there any other jobs you're looking to apply for potentially, or?
So I think that I am still really open to a lot of different jobs. People will pretty constantly ask me, oh, what field do you want to work in? Oh, what do you really care about? And there are a lot of causes and things that I'm interested in and care about, but I'm also at the point where I just feel uncomfy not having a job, and I am happy to work almost anywhere. I mean, if they're doing something that I am like morally against, no, but I don't know that many that are in social services. And so I'm also trying to, every time I look at a job, I'm trying to navigate where that line is this a job that I will absolutely hate, or just is not a good fit with my skills and my interests, versus that dream of like, is this job my dream job, the perfect fit, blah, blah, blah. Trying to find that middle area where when I'm applying, saying maybe this job isn't ideal, but I would be happy to talk to them and find out more if I did get an interview. So recently I've been trying to go through and sort of figure out what even I do care about in a job. So like, what things are non-negotiable for me? What am I willing to be really flexible on?
Yeah, that's good. So you're able to know right away if there's a job that hits one of those maybe red lines that you have, you don't want to apply for it, or that's not a position you'd like. But you're also willing to make some sacrifices for things that you feel could potentially be like beneficial to you, but still maybe not your dream job, or experience-wise, or awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point I'm ready to toss dream job out the window.
Right.
But I think also that might just be general anxiety, and I'm trying to be aware of when it's that versus when it's like actually a legitimate concern.
Yes. When do you graduate?
So I graduate I think my commencement was Friday, May 8th, but we just heard from the university yesterday that there will be no commencements, but I'll still my diploma will officially be granted to me on May 10th or something like that.
Okay. So no commencements?
Yes.
How does it make you feel?
So at first I didn't really feel anything. So yesterday I was like, I'm not upset by this. This is fine. I didn't buy my cap and gown yet or my hood. But then I started talking to my other classmates, and I was like, oh, this is actually a bummer, and I don't love that I won't be able to do that. Because I'm generally not into a lot of ceremony and pageantry. I don't usually care much about it one way or the other. But I actually really enjoyed my undergrad graduation. It was a really special moment, like with all of the friends that I'd gone through and gotten that degree with. And this time, even though it's only taken a year, I feel like the amount of work I've had to put into it just exploded exponentially, and I do a lot more now. And this degree has been so hard, and I have not necessarily loved my time. I've loved what I've learned, and I've enjoyed my classes, but this year has honestly been hell. So I am, the more I sit in it, the more I'm realizing that I am bummed out and I'm disappointed that there's not something positive to market at the end as a sort of like a hoorah. And they're talking about doing something for students, whether it's like they mail you a little package that plays the alma mater song when you open it, or if just the College of Social Work decides to Skype everybody that day and we go woo. But I don't know. At the same time, I definitely understand why they did it. And who knows what the world will be like in May, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, just to clarify, they did shut it down for the COVID-19 going around.
Yes.
Not to have any
no gatherings.
Gatherings over
50.
Yes. So, yeah, that'll affect, especially when you've worked so hard for your degree, and now you feel like you can't do that final step that really signifies that you've graduated and you finished it.
Yeah.
Especially for a master's, that's a lot of work. So
yes.
You should still be proud of yourself, and it is also, yes, but it is a bummer, and that's definitely something that, is reasonable to feel upset about. So, we have applied to some jobs, and we haven't heard back. Are there any next steps possibly you think you could take in order to feel more comfortable in your position right now? or because you said you graduate May 10th, so you have around May before you graduate and you get a job. So are there any steps you think you can take right now?
Yes. So currently I've definitely been doing my favorite habit, which is avoiding things that stress me out. Avoidance is my favorite, probably not the most healthy. And so I really need to buckle down and think about, ooh, this is real and this is happening, what can I do? So I think some pieces of that might include talking to both of my supervisors at both of my workplaces right now, and getting advice from them, because one, her job is a career counselor, and I think that she could probably give me some additional insight, as well as just provide some encouragement for what I'm going through. And then my supervisor for my field placement for social work, they had originally been dropping a lot of heavy hints that there would be jobs available in the next week or two, and that I should apply for them. Now I'm worried that that will be changing because hiring people is not their priority right now. They're in the school system for K through 12. Their priority is helping families that suddenly don't have a place for their kids to go 5 days a week for multiple hours, which I totally understand. And as an intern there, that will be my priority as well. But I think talking to her and getting some insight and seeing if it's something that I should continue to wait for or not. So I think talking to them is probably the first step because that'll help make it kind of real for me. Beyond that, I am worried that I'm going to get a little stir crazy here, just thinking about it all the time. So hopefully I can find something to do that takes my mind off of it when there isn't a need to think about it, when I do everything that I can do. And then I also just need to keep doing my job search. So I, like 5 or 6 jobs feels like a lot, but I don't really think it is. I need to keep applying because just in my graduating class, there's like 80 of us for the master's program, I think. And we're all competing for the same types of jobs, as well as people who have been working in the field and aren't just freshly graduating. So like 5 jobs isn't that much, but I hate applying.
So your supervisors, is that someone you would like consider your mentors or you're close with? You have a relationship with them and you're willing to trust them, so that way you wouldn't feel, led afar or whatever when she says, hey, we may have a position open, and you would feel like, well, that's something that I can count on or have some ability or some amount of trust in having that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this supervisor, because this program is only a year, I've only known her since June, but she's been so helpful and supportive to me, and I've really learned a lot from her. When I think of the type of social worker that I want to be, it is this person, and so I really respect her opinion and her insight on things. At the same time, the way the organization is built, she's not a person that has any say-so on when they're hiring or not. And so I think that she knows things and she knows how to get information. So she's who I'd start with to even just find out who else should I talk to. Because a higher up person was who was originally dropping hints, but I was finding it annoying because it wasn't very solid. And they just kept telling me to wait and something would pop up. And that's really frustrating when you're in a sort of limbo position where it's like, will I have a paycheck starting in June?
Yeah, well, that's really awesome that you have that person, though, that you're able to look at and, aspire to be one day. Okay. And you also had mentioned that you don't want to go stir crazy. And I was wondering, has this virus affected your job? I know a lot of people are no longer working in place. And I know you worked on campus. So has that affected you in any way? Are you working from home now, or? Yes.
Yeah. So it's a little bit in limbo right now. Currently, I have the option, for this week at least, to go onto campus to do work, but a lot of people are telecommuting and doing work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the capability to do that. There's no reason for me to go to the office. And I'm trying to be really conscious about social distancing. And I'm pretty introverted, so you would think that I would be living for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of boring already. And I just feel really cooped up and like I haven't seen the world or the sun. It's only been 3 days. But I am working from home, and I will also be taking classes from home for the rest of the semester, starting again next week. I don't know if that's going to provide more structure and make me feel more like my life is still happening and isn't like stagnant because I'm in one location all the time,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's just going to be like extra new work to do. So we'll see about that. And then my field placement, because it's technically a class, but it's also hours I'm supposed to do, they're trying to figure that out. I get an email every day from like our field instructors and our like the people who lead that program, that says something different. So originally it was yes, go in, and then the other day it was like you can go in, but if you feel unsafe, you can do it from home. But then my field placement itself, because it's in Knox County schools, the office is closed for at least this week and probably the next. And they'll be working from home, so I'm not worried at all about getting my field hours to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have, like, they keep changing the rule of whether or not people are expected to go in. Not my field placement itself, but the school.
Right.
So I've kind of stopped reading those emails because I feel like they have not been helpful, and I'm just waiting for like a final one. I just keep being like, no, okay, more updates, great.
Waiting for that final say-so of what you're going to end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Because most of them are like, we had a meeting today, and this is what we're maybe thinking. Be on the lookout for more. And I'm like, oh, great, okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do think it's funny that you mentioned that you're introverted and that you're struggling, per se, hanging out at home, not really going out. I think it's, I don't know, I think some people feel like when they're told they can't do something, they're like, well, now I feel the need to leave my house.
Mm-hmm.
So that could definitely be something that people struggle with, or just, like you said, getting that lack of sunlight or just talking to people. Do you have roommates or anyone you live with currently?
I do. I have 2 roommates and sort of a half roommate. One of the roommate's fiancés lives here on and off. And so there are definitely people around, and I have supports, and
That's
I have
good.
friends that I can talk to.
That's good.
Currently, I'm the only one working from home, so during the day, it's just been me,
Mm-hmm.
which, again, in some ways is nice, because I do like having time where I'm not talking to other people, because it can be really draining. But I also, again, I like to go places just sometimes alone, and I can't do that now. So, yes, I have supports in place that I can talk to about all of this, and who can be in the same boat as me. I'm kind of fingers crossed that we'll all start to get working from home, but I don't think it's going to happen based off their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can be like a slumber party, yay. And it's less me sitting there looking at COVID-19 news feeds when
Yes.
I'm supposed to be working, and I go, ooh.
Right. So, circling all the way back around.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're at home,
Mm-hmm.
alone during the day,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you're worried about looking for jobs.
Yes.
Has that affected you, where you're sitting alone at home, stressed about it at this point? Or are you practicing any exercises? Or are you doing anything to get your mind off of that? Or any proactive steps you can take before, you stress yourself out anymore about that?
Yes. So I know I've had, and again, a lot of it is because of my coursework. It has forced me to be far more self-aware than I ever wished that I was. And so I know that I am a worrier. In my family especially, I'm the one that usually takes on the worry role because everyone else says it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, someone has to worry about it. But it doesn't always mean that I act on it. It means that I think about it obsessively.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that about myself. So I've been trying to make sure that I have specific tasks and hobbies that I can do. So I like downloaded some free yoga app the other day, and I did that today. It was only 20 minutes, but it was something interesting and something to do that was very like physically oriented, and I just had to think about that, which was nice. I've also picked up cross stitching as of this week. Just again to have another one where it's kind of monotonous. I'm not having to have like a lot of critical thinking, but it is requiring my attention because it's something that I don't really know how to do, and it's taking my mind off of it as well, because otherwise I can sort of get in a circle in my brain of just thinking about the same things in a way that's not productive. So those are the two I'm trying right now, and if they're not working, I guess I'll look for something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I think those are awesome. Sometimes it helps just to do something, like you said, almost mindless, that you're focusing on this activity, and not thinking about things you can't control right now, such as working from home or, you know, looking for jobs or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's important, the thinking about things I can't control, because I love to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would definitely continue doing those, and like you said, if they're not working for any reason, there are plenty of other activities you can maybe try, and we can explore those options at that point when you're saying, you know, I don't think yoga is it for me, or wherever you're at.
Yeah.
So, and you said you applied to 5 or 6 jobs.
Yes.
Are you looking, I know we've talked about it, but are you looking at any other jobs currently, or are you hoping to?
So last week I felt motivated. I was doing it in class instead of paying attention, to go on to this website for the Alliance for Better Nonprofits. They have a job board. Job searching for me is a little bit more complicated because I'm not clinical, so I'm not like typing the word social worker won't pull things that I'm necessarily qualified to do. They want a licensed clinical social worker, and that is not me, and hopefully never will be me. And so they have things for more of that systematic and programmatic work. And so I went on there, and there were 2 jobs with the United Way that were like vaguely interesting, and so I need to be proactive and apply for those 2, I think. And then from there, I need to actually search again. It's been probably about 3 weeks since I did like an in-depth search using different sources or anything.
What are some of the sources that you use to do those job searching? Is it just Googling, or do you have specific databases you use?
So the one is the Alliance for Better Nonprofits' job board, but it doesn't post things up too often. Another place, my field instructor told me to check this, is just the Knox County and city government pages, because they hire in like public housing and food and transportation in neighborhoods. All of those things will take social workers in, because you're working on like community pieces and how people interact with one another. So I need to check there again. There was one job that sounded really cool, but I was super not qualified for. I had to know all of the laws for housing and had to be working in that. There was a test that you had to make an 80 on or something. So I was like, I don't have any experience in housing. Some other places are LinkedIn has honestly been pretty helpful. It shows a lot, because I feel like sometimes when I Google, the pure just like dump of information is a lot, and most of the jobs that pull up on there are hospital social workers or health social workers, which technically I have the degree qualifications for, and so I could apply. Currently, it's one of those ones where I never imagined myself in that position at all, and I'm trying to figure out if it's a place I'm willing to compromise, is working in healthcare or not. So I've been checking LinkedIn, sorry, going back and forth. Checking LinkedIn, there's a website called Idealist that a lot of people recommend. When I've used it before, it's pretty much just pulling up things in Atlanta, and I don't super want to work there just because it's so expensive. I hate commuting, and I feel like Atlanta traffic will break my spirit. So I'll probably check there again, see if they have anything closer.
So on that note, are you willing to are you looking to stay in Knoxville currently? Are you looking to get out of Knoxville and try something new? Or stay close to family? Where are you feeling, or where are you looking for that?
Yeah, so that is something that I have been exploring a lot and trying to do some critical assessment of. So if you'd asked me at the beginning of this year, I would have been really open to moving anywhere. I was looking at doing a Fulbright after this year. Before I went into my master's program, I thought about doing a year of AmeriCorps, but then ended up having opportunities in grad school that I didn't know if I would have a second chance at, so I went ahead and did it. So I was very convinced that I wanted to move somewhere else to try it out. This whole year I've really grown attached to Knoxville, and I kind of realized that really I just like to go on vacation and see new places. I don't necessarily love living other places. And so Knoxville is ideal, and that's where I'm looking now. And in theory, I thought it would be easier to job search here because a lot of social services jobs are based off of who you know and where you've worked before, so that they can sort of vouch for you. And I don't have networks in other cities, and so I was like, much easier. At the same time, I have started branching out a little bit. I haven't really looked at anywhere back home. I'm from the Tri-Cities. I don't really think that there's anything for me there at this point. There might be some interesting work, but I don't really know anyone at home anymore other than my parents. So that might be kind of stressful. I'm not so certain about that. But I've looked in like Asheville, Nashville, because that's where my sister lives. There have been some really interesting jobs that I like casually saw when I did a search of Nashville, but cost of living is so much higher, and so I'm worried about that. I did a little bit of looking in Chattanooga. I do think I would probably want to stay in the Southeast to start. As I get more career experience and like have more legitimate credentials, I think I would be more willing to move other places, but I don't know.
Okay, so definitely something that you would possibly consider, but looking to stay in Knoxville for now, or at least East
Knoxville
Tennessee.
adjacent.
So
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely moving away from home or where you lived comes with a whole new set of challenges. Looking for new friends and where to live. So definitely something to consider, but also hopefully you find a job in Knoxville where you want. So, all right. So you said potentially you were going to do AmeriCorps?
Yeah.
Is that something that you would consider now, or is there anything that you would consider that may not be on your radar currently with job searching?
Yeah, so this is something I'm not sure about. I toss it around sometimes. If it turns out that all full-time jobs are no longer hiring and that is what I can do to get more valuable experience until things improve after all this COVID uncertainty, I will do it. But if you'd asked me last week, the answer was probably not. Just because now that I have a master's degree, doing AmeriCorps feels like a step back. It's usually what you do before you go on to get your master's. And so I'm still really young. I'll be 22. And so sometimes I feel like I put the stress on myself to be like, you need to start like your grown-up life now. And that's not necessarily true. And AmeriCorps would still build a lot of valuable skills for me, and I could gain a lot from it. But at the same time, my qualifications at this point put me at a position where in theory I should have a full-time job making an actual living wage, and I'm ready to do that. I'm kind of tired of working 3 jobs. I would like to have one and be able to comfortably pay my bills with it. I don't know that AmeriCorps is something I can do that with. I'm kind of over the college living paycheck to paycheck life, and depending on my job, that may still be what's happening. So yeah, I'm moving away from AmeriCorps, but now that things have changed in an instance, not completely ruling it out
Still
again.
an option.
Yeah.
On the table. So 3 jobs. You're working 3 jobs right now, and going to school, finishing up your degree.
Yes.
Oh, wow. What's that like? Is that like stressful for you, or are you handling it well?
It sucks and no.
Okay.
I was originally doing 4, or it was sort of 3.5 near the end of November, and I dropped 1, which is great. It was kind of fun, and I got free donuts as a barista, but
Nice.
I also hated sitting there because I was doing it on weekends, and it's not that I have crazy plans every weekend, but I didn't want to be there
You still want the option
to do something different, even to just do nothing.
to.
And so now I'm doing my field placement, which doesn't actually pay me, but I'm there 16 to 20 hours a week. And then I work for them an extra 10 to 15 hours a week from home doing like remote stuff for them. So that's part of the reason I'm not too worried about doing my field placement, is because I already do remote stuff all the time. It's just usually that's the part I get paid for. And then I'm doing the 25 hours a week in my assistantship. And it's gotten easier. I don't know if it's just because I'm kind of numb to it now, and I'm like, well, this is it, because I am doing it until May.
Right.
And if I don't have a job in May, I think I'll miss it. Yeah, so it's just been different. In undergrad, I always had a refund, and so I had a job, but it was literally 10 hours a week in an office on campus, very relaxed. And I always had money at the end of the month. This year has not been that way. I'm trying to learn how to budget, or it's something that I keep telling myself I'm going to learn how to do, and then you can catch me at Taco Bell multiple times a week.
Yes.
So yeah.
That is a struggle to budget your money, especially when you're so busy and it's hard to not just go pick up food or go get food when you are bored or stressing out about this coronavirus COVID going around. So awesome. So have you had any difficulty balancing those jobs with your classes or maybe your social life in any way, or have you been able to really separate the times and make sure you have enough time to do everything you want right now?
Yeah. So the nice thing about the remote work I do is that I can do as many hours I want based off how much I need to be paid, or want to be paid. So if there are weeks where I have a lot of school things coming up, I can tell the folks at my field placement I'm not going to be working from home as much this week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And usually I try to be proactive so that they don't put a whole bunch of deadlines right then as well, and let them know that schedule way ahead of time. And I've been very lucky. They've been very considerate, and they always check in on me. And like sometimes I'll think something is fine to have on my plate, and they'll be like, no, and they'll remove something, which is good because sometimes I need people to do that for me. And so that makes it slightly easier. And I am naturally I like being a student, so while I complain about it all the time, I am kind of curious about what I will even do with my time when I'm not doing that anymore. I enjoy the traditional academic setting. I don't find it too challenging. And so, like, I definitely have sat at this table. No, not at this.
That's okay.
I have definitely sat in my home before,
Yes.
and it's been like, that paper is due tomorrow, and I've done nothing for it, and sat here for 6 or 7 hours and not moved and just written it. And is that the best for me? No. So I've done stuff like that, but it's not something that's like incredibly well. I think probably the biggest piece is probably social life. I don't do as much as I did in undergrad, so I'm not as involved in as many clubs, and I see less people. Part of that is because my friends have moved away, and so we see each other when we're all back together, but also because even when I do have time, I'm tired. I don't want to go anywhere or do anything. So I am looking forward to like picking up hobbies again someday. So
Yoga.
yeah, yoga. I went into pottery the other day and loved it So maybe I will make that a thing. Maybe that is something I will put money towards when I have a job. I don't know.
Yes, when you have a job. So you mentioned that you've been a student, basically since whenever you started kindergarten.
Yeah.
But you love school.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that maybe you feel connected to in some way, or you feel like you can identify as a student? Do you feel any way that in school sometimes maybe it's more structured and a job is less structured and you're more independent and responsible?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any stressors, or how do you feel about transitioning from that school life to, the career life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a huge piece of my identity and self-worth and value, which is, I realize is unhealthy and I've been trying to separate it, is how well I do as a student and being a good student. It's like a large piece of what I identify as, or who I identify as. And so it is something that I think about. It was something that was more stressful to me last year when I wasn't sure if I was going to be a graduate student or if I would be taking a year or two off.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of uncertainty then, and I felt a lot of stress about it because such a large part of my life has been school. It takes up the majority of my time. It's what I generally prioritize over other things, which is not the same for all people, which took a long time for me to wrap my head around, even after like the K through 12. And so I've been trying to dismantle that for a while now. I've been fairly successful at it this year. And I think part of it is because my education requires that we work in a field placement. And so I've gotten used to that. And I'm assigned a grade for the work I do. And so I can know that, yes, things are going the way they're supposed to. Right. I love feedback. I need it. And so I think that'll be the big thing, is that when I transition into work, doing that. At the same time, I do really love academia, and I haven't completely ruled out that I'm never going back.
Right.
So my mom has been to school like 6 times, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I remember when I first started school, I was really stressed that I would do that because I didn't have a major picked out or anything, and I said, I don't want to go to school 5 times. But now I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to have like 50 more years after this. What do I fill my time with? So I've thought about law school. I've thought about a PhD. None of them for a while.
Okay.
I think I would probably need at least like a 5-year break before I jump back in. Although there are people who are always saying, you got to go straight through or you'll never do it. And then there are other people that are saying, give yourself a break, whatever. So everyone has a different opinion on that, and I'm kind of just ignoring both of them currently. I think I would want to get all my finances in order and feel really good about my student loans and where they are before I went to school again and took on more student debt and all of that stuff. So.
Right. Is that somewhere where you don't feel secure right now, your finance situation or student loans specifically?
Student loans right now feel fine because I'm not having to pay anything towards them.
Right.
And I'm lucky in that I have a pretty low rate of student loan compared to other people. So I took, originally I wasn't going to take out any student loans in grad school because I had an assistantship and I had a job. But then my car broke down. And the interest rate is lower than a credit card. So I did go ahead and take a small one out. I think it was like $1,500. And so I have that one, and it is gaining interest, which is sort of stressful, but I know my undergrad ones are just kind of sitting there right now. So it's something that I'm constantly aware of, but doesn't take up a large piece of my brain. I'm just kind of like, okay, that'll be something that I take care of later. But I grew up in a home where finances were incredibly stressful all the time, and still are.
Okay.
And so I want to be as responsible as possible, so it's not an issue if I ever have a family. I don't know how practical that is or not. But it's something I want to be really smart about it as much as I can. Which if I wanted to be really smart about it, I probably would have done some things different in undergrad, but I didn't know anything then, so.
Right. So that's awesome you're able to see how maybe your family had struggled with finances, and you're able to apply some things that you've learned in order to hopefully you won't have to struggle with the same things or make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So that's definitely some steps you can take to having that financial stability and having a job will definitely help with that. So I know student loans aren't your main priority, but you had mentioned that you have, rent and everything to pay, and that'll come with a job.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to circle back around.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you applied to 5 or 6 jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking at a few other ones. Do you have any goals for a number of jobs you'd like to apply for, maybe?
So, if I were to do what I think would be helpful, is I would kind of make, and so I work in the Career Center on campus, and this is something I tell students to do all the time, and I haven't done, which is make sort of an Excel spreadsheet where I go in and I drop in the URLs and the information for all of the jobs that I'm interested in. I put in the application deadlines, how far I am on them, and then kind of prioritize them by most interest, least interest, all of that. And so I think doing that would be helpful, because right now it's sort of like I have a random Word document with just a list of links of things that at one point, like 2 months ago, I said, oh, maybe. And then I was doing school and all of this other stuff and didn't get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think doing that, I don't know if there's a particular number or not, maybe like 10 more, or in a perfect world I'd apply to like 1 more and then I would have a job.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah.
So I definitely think that moving forward, we should focus on this Excel document.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great idea, writing them down, prioritizing what you may want, keeping track of maybe which ones you've applied for, which ones maybe you've called back or had an interview,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And we can just base it off of 10 for right now.
Mm-hmm.
If 10 more jobs is something you're looking for, maybe before we meet again, we could apply for 4. Just
Okay.
4 more jobs. Just put the application in and then work on that Excel spreadsheet and saying that you've accomplished 4 more. And if anything, hopefully it'll just give you some more, confidence that my name is still out there for more jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that this COVID-19 is going to be still around.
Yeah.
And it's still going to be an issue for a lot of these jobs that you applied for.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll get some of that done. And I also really like that you are doing these activities to keep your mind busy.
Mm-hmm.
Any mindfulness activities, such as yoga
Mm-hmm.
or cross-stitching. Doing these activities will just take your mind off it, and even if it's 10 minutes a day, allowing you to not be as stressed or not as focused on your job, because you do still have time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not tomorrow that you're not going to have a job. And just finish up this rest of the semester strong and looking for these jobs. So, and definitely explore. I know you said you don't want to work in healthcare, correct? Is that where you didn't want to go?
And originally, yeah, absolutely not.
Right.
And now I'm starting to be like, well, what do I hate about healthcare? What would I?
Right. That's definitely, a good thing to do is think, things that maybe right away you were like, I'm not working there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe thinking, why don't I want to work here? Or maybe there's some pros to working here, or for experience, or etc.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is. Definitely taking the time to explore all of these options to make sure, you've hit every possible chance you have.
Mm-hmm.
But I do really like the idea of that Excel spreadsheet. That is awesome.
Yeah,
So, is that something you learned from work? You
It
said
is,
that they,
yes. It's something that they recommend, and I've kind of adopted sharing with students. There's lots of great things I tell students to do that when I have to do them, I
Right.
don't want to.
That's
So.
natural, normal.
Yep.
Sometimes it's easier to say things than to take your own advice. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, you have any final comments or concerns? I know we're gonna work on those 4 jobs
Mm-hmm.
and continuing those mindfulness activities, and then hopefully staying home and staying not getting sick, staying healthy.
Mhm.
But anything?
No, I think it's been really helpful to sort of talk through those ideas and get them out of my head, into the air. I feel like I know what I need to do next before we meet again. So yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. Well, if that is it, thank you for coming in today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week, and hopefully you're not too bored at home.